Good morning, five-star family, and welcome to another edition of the 10,000 Club. Today I have Doug Hale and Diane Myers is joining us today. Welcome, Diane.
Hey.
We are glad to have her with us. Diane's one of our BAs. If you're one of our agents joining us at 5-star, which you would have to be in this room, but you may do some business with Diane. So welcome, Diane.
Thank you.
Man,
Hello,
if you don't know Diane Myers by now, people, you gotta know this lady. She answers many of my questions only every day, right, Diane?
Just every day. Every day.
Diane could probably write a book on things agents don't do right at 5-star, because she's like the police in the background. How long have you been at 5-star, Diane?
Well, as Greg calls it, I've been with 5-star for about 16 years.
Wow.
Okay.
Because we were 5-star Professionals, which was a franchise of 5-star real estate. So I was with a couple other gentlemen, and then when Greg brought them out, I've got another 5 years added to that as 5-star real estate. So
I was gonna say I'm gonna go a little longer than 16 years then. That's a little longer than that, for sure. For sure.
Well, great. Well, thank you for being willing to join us today. These are not
absolutely.
Always, when you're not used to doing them, they're not always, like, sure, sign me up. I'll go on the live stream. So anyway, today, much like earlier this week, the deal doctors spoke about earnest money deposits. And we're talking about that as well today, because it's just really so important to the bigger picture, right?
It is. It definitely is. Yeah.
So, earnest money deposits, they're not required on a purchase agreement, but they do help you as an agent. It makes a seller look at your offer and say, hey, this is really somebody that's showing us love and affection. They love our home. And it's sort of an intent to purchase, correct?
Kind of called a good faith deposit too, right? That word good faith. I mean, that goes a long ways when you're dealing with a seller. So
exactly.
Keep going. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. So, and they can be, they can be any amount. Some people would make them $1,000, $10,000, $20,000, depending on their love and affection, right? Their good faith, their intentions. The issues that we have are when broker responsibility comes into play. And that's where we as agents, because Doug is a selling agent, I'm a selling agent, we're hitting the streets and we're writing offers, right, Doug?
We are only every day, we hope.
Yeah, that'd be nice. But the issue becomes Diane in the back end, she has some responsibilities in making sure that we as agents have dotted all our I's and crossed all of our T's. And so it's not really about policing everybody, but it's about broker responsibility and the obligation that the broker has to ensure that their agents are following the law. So Diane, this might be a good opportunity for you to talk a little bit about what you do and what it looks like to be running the race of chasing EMDs at 5-star real estate.
Well, that's a perfect way to say it, running the race, right?
Running the race, absolutely. Well, typically what happens is, within, 24 to 48 hours, you should have an EMD turned into 5-star. Of course, with the outlying offices, they'll mail them. So there's a little bit of an extension on that, so to speak, for the buyer to get it into the mail, whether they're sending it to the Standale office or sending it to the Muskegon office, however they are doing it. Usually we like to have it that way. What happens is when we process an EMD, we typically make a copy of it, put it in the loop, and then we will email you letting you know that we received the EMD. There's a copy in the loop just in case you need to send it to a lender, or sometimes other agents will request it. So we'll, that way you've got access to it so you can send it to the other agent. Once that's taken care of, then everything, I'll deposit it on my end from Muskegon, since we don't have couriers coming from Grand Rapids and, our other outlying offices. So I'll make the deposit. I send over everything over to our Standale office, and they'll process it as the accounting department is typically what happens.
Yeah. You know what I love about that process, Diane, too, and again, having been kind of a fairly new 5-star agent, but again, when that deposit gets made, it obviously, you said it posts in dot loop.
Yes.
You also send us, as the agent, you send us verification that, hey, we received it, it's in dot loop. So all of a
Correct.
sudden my flags go up going, hey, it's here, right? So now I can make sure that I'm communicating as I should, as the agent, right, to the other agent, if there is
Right.
another agent on that side of the transaction. So there's good communication from start to finish. And again,
Correct.
that is what I love about our support, is to make sure that those things happen as quickly as they can. If they don't happen that quick. Now, I love this because Tracy, I don't know if I'm going there next, but I'm going there next.
Go there.
I've had people that, let's say they're not from Muskegon, and they want to write an offer. We write an offer. They want to put down a couple $1,000s on the offer. They will very, very often take a picture of their check, send me a picture of the check, and say, Doug, I'll get that in the mail right away.
Right.
I say, great, I'll be looking forward to it. Here's our address. Get it here as quickly as we can, right? Does that verify? And again, this is where we always talk about this in a lot of our meetings or a lot of our coffee talks. By them taking a picture of that check, that doesn't necessarily verify that that deposit's coming.
I think
Correct.
it shows intent. It
It
shows
shows-
intent to deliver, but it does not show delivery. If
Exactly.
it was in your hand, Doug Hale, that would be a form of delivery.
Different story, right? Yeah, and again, I think that's where we as agents have to get a little bit smarter, a little bit better about what we do with the verification of that. Because if you're pressed on the other side of the transaction from the other agent, hey, did you receive the EMD yet? Again, you want to have as much information. You want to be able to ask those questions as quickly as you can early on in the transaction. Again, thank heavens we folks like Diane that are posting those things once they get them. But there's a lot of things that could possibly happen from the time that they say they're sending that check until the time that we actually receive it.
Yeah.
So,
Diane, here's a scenario.
Okay.
An agent receives an earnest money check for a client. It is delivered to the broker. You get receipt of it. You then take it, deposit it, load it into Dotloop, and then you get a notification from Jeff Bender. Now, Jeff Bender could be calling for good things, or he could be calling for bad things.
this isn't a good thing, I don't think.
Yeah. So say you get a call from Jeff Bender that says, "Hey, Diane, the file at 123 Main Street." My favorite address that I always use as an example. This property address, the earnest money deposit has bounced the check.
Check's no good.
What happens in that scenario, Diane?
Then what we do is we take it out of our accounting program. It's either Marcy or Jeff might call the agent, or they could call me and I'll call the agent and say, hey, I'm sorry, the check bounced. We need your people to send us a certified check in the mail or drop off a certified check. So we make sure that the funds are guaranteed, and then we just redeposit and go from there.
Okay, so notice has been given to the office that a check has bounced. Doug, what happens then? I mean, we've got a broker on this side and we've got a broker on this side. So this broker over here, 5-star, knows what's going on. But what about this person over here? Do we have an obligation, Doug?
We absolutely have an obligation. Again, that's where communication between agents, between what we're doing, has to be first and foremost. We have an obligation to call that other agent as soon as we're notified. Because that's essential in this whole thing. If we do not, and again, that's one of those things that people say, well, gosh, do I need to let the other agent know that? Can't I just handle it on this end? Can't I just take care of this? It's not necessary to let them know that. Wrong. It is necessary. It's our obligation. We have to immediately, once notified, make sure that that other agent is aware of that and what we're doing to remedy that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And if that broker calls and says, look, where's the money? You don't have the money? Well, we need the money in the account today. If our agent is unable to deliver that money, our broker will charge the agent for that money because the money needs to be in the account. So just know that that is a high probability.
And Tracy, then 5-star deposits that money. 5-star.
Correct. On behalf of our client.
And they charge our agent. Okay, good to know.
Correct. So that's one thing. So if the earnest money deposit has bounced, if the earnest money deposit has not been collected. So the agent, this is the importance of using a checklist, because if that agent sent you a picture of their check and showed the intent to deposit, but you never called to verify that it actually was deposited, then you've missed the mark, right? So Diane will load it into the loop for you. I have a folder inside of that loop for me that says EMD docs. So anything related to the EMD goes in that folder. So when I scan through my dot loop, if the EMD folder is empty and I'm 2 weeks into a transaction, number one, I haven't been watching my checklist. And number two, I didn't make sure it was done. I didn't do my job. So I better get on the horn and start making some calls to make sure that it indeed has been collected, and I just did not verify and have record of it.
Well, and Diane, something you just said that meant a lot to me was early on in the process, where you say, once that is received, and whether somebody drops it in a Dropbox or whether you get it over the course of a business day,
right,
you're notifying, you're putting it in our dot loop, you're
correct,
sending a text or an email to us. So there's a lot of ways that you reach out to the agents, correct?
Yes. And it's typically through dot loop is what we typically do. We'll send the agent a message saying that we received it, and there's a copy in the loop.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
So that's our verification process, for the agent. But if the agent, doesn't turn it in, and we've run into this a lot where, EMD's never turned in, then there's that last minute scramble.
Yeah. Yeah. And Diane, it's not your responsibility to chase that agent. I just want to verify this too, because as an agent, I have a responsibility, right? I have a responsibility to go get that money, to figure out how that's going to get there, to communicate with you what I know. Again, that I feel awful sometimes because you go way over and above to help our agents. It happens all the time. I see it every day. And again, I still go back to saying, look, I'm the agent. I have that obligation to make sure that earnest money gets collected. It's great that my staff does what? Posts it, puts it in dot loop, notifies me, all of the back of the house work that needs to be done. And that we have a lot to be thankful for having you do that. But still, that doesn't mean that the responsibility isn't still up front. It's still ours. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, totally agree.
I had a transit. What's that?
Go ahead. I was just going to say, it's crazy how many times I've had people that have taken pictures of checks and said that they sent it. And then lo and behold, it's kind of like, well, we blame it on the snail mail, or we blame it on everything else. And the reality is they haven't sent it. And so that we got to stay on top of that. So go ahead, Grace.
Well, Diane, again, much of what Diane does is to keep things in order so that if we get audited, right?
Yes, correct.
All the dates match up, the dates on contracts, dates of receipt of earnest money deposits that have happened at our bank. This is what she's doing. She's trying to keep the broker out of trouble. So, really what we're doing is what her role is really important here at 5-Star. And I love, I taught one of Kim's classes before, and agents love real life examples. And this is an example that I had probably about maybe around 7 or 8 years ago. I went to a closing, and I was the listing agent and received that picture of the check that Doug described, and got to the closing. And the agent walked in really late, I remember, and he had an addendum in his hand that he handed to everyone and said, oh, I need to get this signed because I never collected the earnest money. So we are literally at the closing table. And he had to have known for a while because the lender, this wasn't a cash sale. And so there needed to be an addendum signed at closing, removing the earnest money from the purchase agreement. Because if his broker's books were ever audited, there was no earnest money held. So there was no funds to be sourced or verified from the lender for the transaction. So here we were at a closing with an agent who did a lot of business, and he probably just made a mistake. I mean, we all move pretty quick. So, I realize it could happen, but this is the importance of using the checklist system that Kim Anderson has put together. So that you are indeed following a system and dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, so that you, like me, don't end up at a closing table with an agent presenting an addendum to remove an earnest money deposit from the purchase agreement.
And wouldn't you think there would have been multiple, I'll say reach outs between agents or between the lender who's trying to verify the deposit, was the deposit made, was it not made, that kind of thing. You would think there would have been many opportunities to have those conversations prior to the closing table.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
And usually sometimes some of the title companies will also reach out to us saying, hey, do you have this in your account? And I'll just go into our accounting program, say, yes, I verify it, we did receive it. So
Yeah, boy, that's another good way to double check it. Boy, that's
Yeah,
great.
see, you're like an octopus with a lot of arms, Diane. You cover a lot of
yes,
ground.
yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
but good scenario, Tracy, because again, we've had those situations, and especially when you're getting into real estate, you're in your first couple of years doing this, and something like this is kind of that curveball that happens the day of closing, and all of a sudden you get this addendum from this other agent. Shame on all of you folks for not having conversations up to that point, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to make this smooth, seamless, very much a lot of transparency within this. And so that's kind of where this accountability and this system that you just talked about that Kim has created for us, that needs to be used a lot.
Yeah. And Diane, when agents go to submit their loops for review, what are the things that you would like to see in the loop completed? Let's just use the buyer side as an example, because this is probably where it comes in a lot.
Yeah.
Yes, with the closing file checklist, purchase agreement, agency disclosure, buyer agency contract, seller's disclosure, and if applicable, the lead-based bank disclosure.
Okay, sounds good.
Those are the things that we're pretty much looking for. If they're using Star, we also need to have the affiliated business disclosure.
Yeah, and do you want them to submit those files for review before or after they've collected the earnest money?
I see a lot of them submitted before.
Okay, so it's either, so you have no preference.
So either or, yeah.
Either or.
Typically, if you do it, within 24 to 48 hours after you've got a fully executed purchase agreement, that's awesome. We'll take it and we'll run with it. And then once we get that EMD, we'll just go ahead and, add it, and we'll send them a note letting them know that we did receive it.
I was just gonna say, that's not a nightmare on your end though, is it? Then you gotta go back into the file and you gotta go make sure. It just, okay, good.
Nope. No, because they'll go through it, because when we go through and look at it, we don't have the EMD. We will make a note in the file in that loop saying need copy of EMD or need EMD. We'll message the agent, hey, we approved your loop, but we need the EMD turned in as soon as possible.
Yeah,
Good.
I've seen that before. Oh, wait a minute, that means I didn't turn in the EMD.
Right. It's never happened.
Come on.
Well, let's face it, these things are important to get finished because you will not get paid without them. So
You got it.
That's
You
correct.
there it is. There it's been said. Diane herself has let us know. Folks,
You got it. Well, hey, one
Approved
thing,
pending is your golden ticket to get paid.
there you go. Hey, one thing I just wanted to touch on real quick, and of course I'm looking at the Wimlar purchase agreement that talks about that 72 hours. And I think, Tracy, we had conversation around that. Don't wait, folks. Don't wait. I mean, if you have an opportunity to collect an earnest money the day you write the offer, for heaven's sakes, get your hands on that check. Okay. Don't wait until the end. Again, I wish it didn't have a time frame in there, because very often people wait until the end, and that means your broker's got to have that earnest money check by then, folks. There's a lot that has to happen before that. So I don't know why that's a pet peeve of mine, but it just is. I want to make sure that check is delivered as quickly as you can.
Yep, exactly. And when you're able to call that listing agent on the other side and let them know that you've collected, you have in your possession that earnest money. Again, it brings the anxiety level down and ups the communication game right from the get-go.
It does. It does. Yeah. Another reason to reach out and communicate. I agree. Totally.
Yeah, well, good. Well, Diane, thank you for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Very
Yes.
welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Yep. So have a great Thursday, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Thanks,
See
Tracy.
you later.
Thanks,
You're
Diane.
welcome. Bye,
You're
Doug.
welcome.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. See you guys.